His box office, his basketball IQ, he's 6'7", but LaMelo's special.
Off to the races, what do you got? Yes!
LaMelo Ball, 22 years old, is one of the NBA's biggest names, a cornerstone for a desperate and deprived Hornets franchise. Yet as he sits out on the sidelines again, his exuberant facade has begun to draw questions. Yet it's not unfamiliar for LaMelo. Fame and money have been ever present in his life since young, and thus so is the spotlight and the question marks that come with it. So I'll take you back to where it all started. LaMelo was destined for basketball stardom. His father and mother both collegiate basketball players, and as soon as the man could walk, he was playing ball. And soon enough he was 13 years and had committed to UCLA. Yes, a 13-year-old had committed to one of the biggest colleges in the US before playing high school ball, following his two older brothers, both of which were NBA caliber talents. LaMelo had basketball maturity beyond his years, playing 17 and under comps since he was 11 years old, and entering the 2015-16 season as a 14-year-old, LaMelo and the three brothers would start for Chino Hills, as they formed arguably the best high school team of all time, cruising to 35-0. LaMelo averaging 16 points and 4 assists per game, receiving National Freshman of the Year honors. As Lonzo left to UCLA in the following year, LaMelo took the keys to the team, and we began to see the star blossom. His flashiness and endless bag drew attention and clicks, but poor efficiency at times and a real lack of defense drew question marks about his style translating to the highest levels. I mean, the kid scored 92 points in a game, barely crossing half court. I mean, half of them were just straight up cherry picks. But I mean, 92 points is 92 points, eh? However, with LaMelo Ball came a traveling circus, a reality TV show, camera crew, hounds of fans, his own shoe brand, and LaVar Ball. Due to LaMelo's own shoe deal, he was ineligible to play college basketball under the nil rights, and after LaVar grew displeasured at Chino Hills, LaMelo was faced with tough decisions. And this is where it gets interesting. Unfortunately for LaMelo, his dad was making all the decisions. In hindsight, it worked, considering two of the brothers are in the NBA, but it put unnecessary stress and scrutiny on LaMelo, as fans unjustifiably grew displeasure for the Ball brothers simply because of their father. With college out of the picture down the road, LaMelo would play in Lithuania against seasoned pros. His slight frame began to sprout, now standing close to 6'5". However, it didn't take long to realise that the Lithuanian experience was merely a cash grab, an opportunity to generate content for the big baller brand's online platforms. LaMelo was praised for his talent, but critiqued for his laziness. Whilst the free environment at Chino Hills had worked, it was clear for LaMelo to gain serious scouting recognition, more concrete and structured programs were needed, outside his father's power, as not even one NBA scout would come to watch him in Lithuania. LaMelo himself even agreeing that Lithuania was a turning point. Hella cold, nobody around, that's pretty much when I just locked in. I didn't give a fuck where I got drafted to. Finally, come his senior year, he'd play for Spy Institute, a prep school in Ohio, after his father declared, "The greatest show in high school hoops is back." Big things were expected, and LaMelo would deliver a successful campaign. He had grown 2 further inches, but maintained his elite guard skills from Chino Hills. His smooth handle, passing instincts, and creativity stood out. He could whip the ball all over the floor with either hand and has the confidence to make the big plays. Yet again, NBA scouts were wary, as Ball was yet to play in any USA basketball games and all high school showcase events, where executives generally get their first extended look at prep players. Many still wondered if his talent outweighed the noise of drafting a 17-year-old celebrity. Was he merely a social media star? Yet LaMelo would silence critics in his next move.
Next year, take my talents to the NBL, play for the LOR Hawks.
Ball driving. This is the #1 pick in the draft. Shakes one way and then the other.
The NBL was one of the better basketball leagues outside of the NBA, and LaMelo instantly proved his worth against the pros. 17, 7, and 8, all beat on 37% shooting. which of course raised doubts, but scouts could see through the shooting splits in recognition of an 18-year-old playing in a serious pro league with serious implications and flashing all-worldly offensive upside. Having once been looking into the NBA draft scene from the outside, in the span of a couple years, LaMelo had worked himself to a top 3 NBA lock in the 2020 draft. Melo would fall to pick 3, drafted by the Charlotte Hornets, an undesirable franchise destination to say the least. But at least LeVar was off his case, and LaMelo could hoop freely. And as we know, the NBA spotlight was nothing for him, having been in the downlight for half a decade prior. As a rookie, LaMelo had become the youngest player to hit 7 threes in an NBA game, filling out his potential from outside the arc, improving 10% from deep since his NBL stint. But already at 19, he had become one of the league's best passers. He could fit the ball into any pocket and brought back some of the 90s flair into the game that fans most desired. To describe it best, he looked like he was having fun out there and making it look easy in the process. Simply a continuation from his Chino Hills days, making him so enjoyable to watch. Like, this highlight reel is ridiculous for a rookie. But it wasn't merely the eye test that drove his Rookie of the Year campaign. 16, 6 and 6 averages highlighted a productive season for Ball, receiving Rookie of the Year, having just had 31 starts in 51 total games. It was safe to say LaMelo had put any doubts left to rest. In the following year, he reached a different stratosphere of shooting, standing amongst the league's best shooters at 39% while spotting up all over the court. But LaMelo, despite being 6'7", his lack of verticality, strength, and tendencies to jump at bigger shot blockers made him one of the worst finishers around the rim, where amongst those with 4 shots around the rim, he was second last at 53%, behind the likes of Trae Young and Tyrese Maxey, all significantly smaller guards. And unfortunately for LaMelo, he's almost got worse at finishing, and until he gets rid of his dodgy finger rolls in traffic, it's likely to continue being a glaring weakness in a strong all-round game. Having said all this, he was the 4th youngest All-Star ever, and in his second year, averages of 20, 7 and 8 were remarkable for the still raw LaMelo Ball. The media and public could care less about his flamboyant character and flashy off-the-court lifestyle while he was producing, and as the team continued to develop and pieces were added alongside LaMelo, a playoff berth was imminent. Unfortunately for LaMelo and the Hornets, their playoff aspirations would be put to halt.
LaMelo's still down. And LaMelo says he needs to come out of the game.
LaMelo Ball is feared to be out for the rest of the season with an ankle injury.
LaMelo would suffer 5 injuries in the 2022-2023 season, 4 of which were ankle injuries, sidelining him for 46 games. In spite of this, the Hornets and LaMelo would agree to a $260 million, 5-year max extension, and rightly so. You don't often get a star player like LaMelo in a small franchise team, and 1 year of reoccurring injuries was an insignificant mitigating factor. Yet sadly this year, the run of ankle injuries would continue, as 3 more would pile on, resulting in LaMelo missing 38 out of a possible 60 games as of recording. The media and fans would begin to question if these injuries are career-altering. LaMelo's stint on the sideline has coincided with a stigma growing around Hornets players being immature and irresponsible, would inevitably fall onto LaMelo, whose off-the-court character has been carelessly questioned whilst he's not playing. Leaks surfaced of his reckless driving as he's caught running multiple red lights. And recently, in a blowout loss, LaMelo was seen laughing, former NBA player Chandler Parsons describing it as an awful look. They're so used to losing, they've created the worst habits where they're like, that's just life there. Telling was LeBron James in a recent interview.
I see a lot of these young kids, they get so unfocused about stuff that is so material that they can lose their focus. Just worry about the game. I mean, you worry about the game, everything take care of itself.
A message that coexists with Melo's big extension in the offseason and exuberant appearances off the court with his jewelry and cars. However, I think it's all BS. A smokescreen, a talking point whilst LaMelo is sidelined. Whilst I do agree that the Hornets as a whole are unserious, acquiring some new vets to unify the young kids could go a long way to fixing the cultural problem in Charlotte. And winning solves everything. and with key injuries to LaMelo and Mark Williams, losing is almost inevitable for the depleted roster. And on the court, LaMelo has given no signs that he can't contribute to winning basketball. It's ultimately down to him staying healthy, not that he's buying too much jewelry. What's next? To state the obvious, LaMelo needs to get healthy. If he could somehow get in touch with Steph Curry, who similarly dealt with a barrage of ankle injuries early in his career, it could do him wonders, as Steph has mitigated his ankle issues since. And assuming health, I really don't think the Hornets are that far from a playoff berth. LaMelo and Brandon Miller both have all-NBA potential, forming a solid trio alongside Mark Williams in the frontcourt, as Miles Bridges' future on the team looms in the air. Trey Mann could also definitely hold the bench as a sixth man, and as they continue to build through the draft, their team could assemble quicker than some might think. As for LaMelo specifically, his shot selection is an unsustainable diet of deep threes and deep floaters at times. He must look to expand out of his predictable floaters and get stronger to initiate first contact with bigs with various changes of pace. And defensively, on ball he's been serviceable, but he can be erratic, much like his offensive playstyle, leading to fouls and gambling steals. LaMelo's only 22, and with a decade ahead of him, his potential is endless.